imagine you've got this this automated vending machine, right? And it basically promises to double your money.
Okay, that's the
So you walk up, you put in like $100 bill, and the machine just starts spitting out a shiny $1 coin every single day.
right.
No questions asked. There's no, bank manager there to approve your account. Just a steady daily drop.
Yes, sounds ideal.
Right. But there's a catch.
There always is.
Yeah. The only way this machine stays full of cash, the only way it actually keeps spitting out those daily coins, is if you convince your friends, your family, and like complete strangers to start using the machine too.
It is a really fascinating mechanical setup, honestly, because you are completely removing the traditional financial institution from the equation.
Right, totally.
But in its place, you're substituting a reliance on continuous, uninterrupted human behavior, which is wild.
Exactly. And that dynamic is exactly why you, our listener, our vital third member in this conversation, are here with us today. Because we are going on a deep dive into a document that attempts to build this exact type of digital architecture.
Yeah, it's called the Fortune Protocol G Plan.
Right. And its stated mission is to establish what it calls a decentralized wealth ecosystem.
Yeah, we are basically looking at a document that essentially serves as it's like a technical and philosophical manifesto all rolled into one.
Definitely.
It's highly structured. Like it maps out everything from the underlying blockchain technology to these deeply, deeply gamified reward tiers that they're designed to drive participation.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we get into the actual, nuts and bolts of how they claim to generate this wealth, we really have to look at the problem they claim to be solving.
Right, the why.
Yeah, and right out of the gate, the source material taps into something that's incredibly real and immediate for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
The document explicitly calls out FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Yeah, they hit that hard.
They do. It points to persistent inflation, just eating away at the purchasing power of everyday people. It talks about increasing job insecurity, mass layoffs, widening wealth inequality.
The creators are diagnosing the modern world as one facing like unprecedented economic and social challenges.
Right.
And they're positioning their protocol not just as a piece of software, but almost as a sanctuary.
A sanctuary, yeah.
A reliable way to create financial stability and independence when traditional centralized systems like your central banks, traditional investment firms, when they just seem to be failing the average person.
But let's set the ground rules for today's deep dive real quick.
Good idea.
We are here as your impartial guides.
Yes, very important.
We are not financial advisors.
Yeah.
And we are absolutely not endorsing or, criticizing this protocol as an investment vehicle.
Right. Our objective is strictly to analyze the exact blueprint laid out in this source material. We want to lift the hood to see how this modern digital ecosystem is actually structured.
Both mechanically and psychologically, right?
Exactly. We just want to understand the logic of its design, regardless of the noise or, the controversy that often surrounds the whole decentralized finance space.
So let's start by lifting that hood and looking at the engine.
Let's do it.
The document argues that modern centralized institutions are just bloated and inefficient. So their solution is an ecosystem built entirely on blockchain technology.
Right.
And they specifically emphasize that they operate with minimal operational expenses. I mean, there is no physical office.
Right.
No corporate infrastructure, no HR department, no traditional overhead costs at all. It is a 100% automated smart contract system.
And that technological choice, that dictates literally everything else in the document.
How so?
Well, a smart contract, for anyone who might be unfamiliar, is essentially a piece of self-executing code.
Okay.
Think of it as an unbreakable digital escrow.
Right.
It can't be bribed, it doesn't sleep, doesn't have a CEO who can just, wake up and change their mind. It only executes exactly what the code dictates. If A happens, then B is triggered automatically.
So we have this automated manager.
Yes.
But they chose a very specific location to deploy this automated manager, and that is the Binance Smart Chain, or BSC.
Oy.
And the document lists several reasons for this, but it starts with, quote, minimal gas fees. So why is that the crucial first pillar?
Well, gas fees are simply the transaction cost you pay to the network whenever you move cryptocurrency around.
Right.
Or whenever you interact with a smart contract.
Right, like a processing fee.
Exactly. And on some older networks, those fees can spike wildly.
Oh, yeah, like during high traffic.
Right. So if
Yeah.
you are building a system that aims to be accessible to everyday people, people who are actively fighting global inflation, you cannot ask them to pay a $30 network fee just to deposit $50.
Yeah, that mathematically breaks the entire model.
It totally does.
Yeah.
So Binance Smart Chain was chosen because those transaction fees are fractions of a cent.
Yeah.
It allows for microtransactions to flow really freely.
That makes perfect sense, especially for a global demographic.
Exactly.
Now, the text also highlights high liquidity, a massive user base, and something called EVM compatibility.
Yeah.
I see this acronym constantly in these types of documents. What does EVM compatibility actually mean in practice, like for the user?
So EVM stands for Ethereum Virtual Machine.
Okay.
And the simplest way to think about it is like a universal electrical outlet for the crypto world.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, because Ethereum established the foundational standards for how smart contracts operate. So by building their protocol to be EVM compatible, the creators don't have to invent their own digital infrastructure from scratch.
Right, they just plug in.
Exactly. They take their code and seamlessly plug it into the existing global crypto grid. It allows their tokens and contracts to interact with like a vast array of existing digital wallets and decentralized apps without requiring custom integration.
Got it. Okay, so they've built this highly efficient, universally compatible, super low-cost digital vending machine.
Yes.
But, and here's where I have to push back on the premise a bit, and I'm sure you listening at home are wondering the exact same thing.
You lay it on me.
A system can be perfectly automated and incredibly cheap to run, but automation doesn't magically print money.
True.
So where does the actual financial value come from? I mean, traditional banks take your deposit, they loan it out for a mortgage, and they pay you a fraction of that interest, right?
Right. They generate external yield.
Exactly. And I'm looking through this text, and I don't see any external investments. There are no real estate portfolios, no software products being sold, so what gives?
Well, the absence of external revenue generation is actually the defining characteristic of this specific model.
Really?
Yeah. To understand where the value comes from, we have to transition from the technological infrastructure to the actual participation mechanics. We need to look at how a user actually enters the Fortune Protocol G, and more importantly, how the math distributes their entry fee.
Okay, well, the document emphasizes a, quote, low entry barrier enabling anyone to start.
Yeah.
And they really mean low. I mean, the participation tiers start at just $25.
Right.
That's the basic package. From there, it scales up through the standard package at $50, the advanced package at $100, premium at $250, elite at $500, all the way up to what they call the all upgrade or max package, which is $1,000.
What's fascinating here is that $25 tier is strategically vital.
How so?
Well, think about it. If your marketing narrative relies on providing an alternative to inflation-ravaged traditional economies, you need a price point that actually works in emerging markets.
Oh, right. $25 means something very different globally.
Exactly. It allows the protocol to tap into a massive global demographic that is traditionally unbanked or underbanked. They're basically turning sheer volume into a substitute for large institutional capital.
That's a really good point. And once you buy one of these packages, we get to the core mechanism, right? The passive income stream.
Yes, the hook.
Right. So the text outlines that once you stake your chosen amount, let's say, you do $100 at the advanced level, you begin earning a 1% daily reward on that staked amount.
Yep.
And I want to emphasize that for a moment. 1% daily.
It's massive.
In the traditional financial world, a 1% return is something you might celebrate over the course of an entire quarter in a standard savings account.
Oh, easily.
But here, it's every 24 hours.
And that daily reward continues until the user hits a very specific ceiling.
Right, the cap.
Exactly. The document details a hard cap of 200%.
Huh.
So your 1% daily reward accumulates until you have exactly doubled your initial participation.
So you put in $100, you receive $1 a day for 200 days, leaving you with $200.
Right. And at that exact point, the passive income just stops entirely unless you purchase another package.
Okay, but getting back to my earlier pushback, where is this daily dollar actually coming from?
What?
Because here's where it gets really interesting. The source material uses very precise phrasing here.
It does.
It explicitly states the daily reward is, quote, generated through the platform's ecosystem participation and smart contract mechanism, end quote.
Yeah, that phrasing that confirms exactly how the economic loop functions.
Which is?
Well, the smart contract mechanism acts purely as an automated distributor.
Okay.
It takes the funds entering the ecosystem from new participants or, from existing participants who are upgrading their packages.
Right.
And it mathematically reallocates those funds to fulfill that 1% daily reward to the earlier participants.
Wow. So it is entirely fueled by network growth.
Entirely.
It's just a closed-loop system of redistribution. There is no external yield. The yield is the math itself.
Yes.
The vending machine only has money to dispense if new people keep walking up and putting their bills into the slot.
Exactly. Which is why that 200% hard cap is so critical to the architecture.
Right, because otherwise it would drain immediately.
Exactly. That cap is the safety valve of the entire smart contract. If the 1% payout just ran infinitely, the compounding liability would instantly bankrupt the protocol.
Makes sense.
By forcing the payout to stop at double the initial amount, the system forces users who want to keep earning to reinvest their gains. And that reinvestment injects fresh liquidity back into the ecosystem to pay the next group of users.
Okay, so the code is built to prevent a rapid drain. But simple logic still dictates that a vending machine powered solely by new users will eventually run empty if the crowd stops growing, right?
Yes, absolutely.
A passive 1% reward just isn't enough to sustain the machine on its own. So how does the protocol actually ensure its own survival?
It ensures survival by fundamentally changing the behavior of its users.
Okay.
It knows it cannot rely on passive staking alone, so it heavily incentivizes active recruitment.
Right.
And this leads us to the second, much larger half of the document. The complex, multi-tiered gamification of community building.
Gamification of wealth. They turn the entire process into a highly lucrative game of network expansion.
Exactly.
And they do this through two main structures outlined in the text, right? The level income and the leadership bonus.
Yes. So the level income is designed to reward you not just for the people you directly recruit, but for the entire network that forms beneath them.
Like a family tree.
Right. In network marketing terms, this is your downline. And the Fortune protocol goes astonishingly deep into this downline.
It really does. The source details payouts all the way down to levels 21 through 25.
Yeah, that's incredibly deep.
Imagine a web branching out 25 layers deep beneath you. But here's the behavioral trap, and I mean trap in the mechanical sense, not necessarily a negative one.
Right, the catch.
To unlock these deeper, more lucrative levels, you have to lock up more of your own capital.
Yes. The mechanism requires serious skin in the game.
Right.
For example, let's say your network actually does grow 21 layers deep. The system offers a 0.5% yield on that level.
Which is huge if it's thousands of people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
However, the smart contract will not pay you a dime of that yield unless you have personally deposited at least $500 into the system.
Wow. And it scales even further. Like, to unlock levels 23, 24, and 25, which ironically jump back up to a higher 1% yield, you must have a personal self-deposit of at least $1,000.
Yeah, the max tier.
So the system mathematically forces top recruiters to max out their own participation packages.
Yep.
It uses your ambition to capture the rewards of your deep network as a mechanism to ensure you never fully drain your account. You literally have to keep feeding the machine to access the money your own network is generating.
It is a brilliantly designed liquidity lock.
It really is.
But the level income, as crazy as it is really just the foundational layer.
Wait, really?
Oh, yeah. The true engine of this protocol's growth is the leadership bonus.
Ah, okay.
This is where the gamification reaches its absolute peak because it starts assigning authoritative titles to different tiers of recruitment success.
I find this part so fascinating from a psychological perspective because you don't just get a cash bonus, right? You achieve a rank.
Exactly. Status.
Let's walk you, the listener, through this progression because it perfectly illustrates the behavioral economics driving this whole ecosystem.
Let's do.
So your first major milestone is achieving the rank of Explorer.
Right. So to qualify as an Explorer, the smart contract requires you to have 5 direct recruits who each purchase the $100 package.
Okay.
You must also maintain a $100 self-deposit.
Got it.
Once you hit those specific metrics, you unlock an 8% team return on investment.
But the most important metric here is the capping, right?
Yes.
Because as an Explorer, your earning limit, the point where the system stops paying you until you buy back in, stays at the standard 2x.
Right, you're still capped at 200%.
You are essentially a manager in training.
Exactly.
But then you look upward at the hierarchy. You pass through ranks like builder and contributor until you hit a major turning point in the document, and that's the strategist.
Yeah. The requirements for strategist represent a really significant leap in organizational effort.
I'll say.
Because you no longer just need direct recruits. You need 4 direct explorers beneath you.
Wow.
And your total team size must reach 500 participants.
500.
Plus, your mandatory self-deposit doubles to $200.
500 people in your downline. That requires serious, sustained promotional effort.
It's a full-time job.
Yeah, you are no longer just participating in a protocol. You are effectively running a mid-sized digital sales organization.
You really are.
And the protocol rewards that by increasing your team ROI to 21% and fundamentally changing your ceiling.
Yes.
Your capping increases to 3x.
Right. You can now extract 300% of your staked amount before that safety valve shuts off.
Which is a huge jump.
It is. The system is actively rewarding you for managing managers. You are mentoring others to become explorers, who in turn bring in more individual participants, which fuels that constant stream of new liquidity required to pay everyone's baseline 1% daily rewards.
And then we reach the apex.
The top of the pyramid.
The absolute top tier detailed in the blueprint, the captain.
Yes.
The logistical requirements for this rank are just staggering.
They are. To become a captain, you must successfully cultivate 6 direct explorers beneath you.
Okay.
Your total downline must swell to a massive 2,000 active participants.
Oh my God. 2,000.
And your personal liquidity lock, your self-deposit, must be at least $500.
Finding 2,000 people willing to put money into a digital vending machine?
It's a lot of people.
At that point, you aren't just a participant. You are literally a pillar of the protocol itself.
Exactly.
And for providing that massive influx of users, a captain receives a 27% team ROI.
Which is huge.
But more importantly, their capping is raised to 4x. They can extract 400% of their staked value.
And what's fascinating here is that the shift from a 2x cap to a 4x cap, it fundamentally alters the user's relationship with the platform.
How do you mean?
Well, a basic user is just trying to quietly double their money and leave, right?
Right. Put in 25, get 50, go home.
Exactly. But a captain is deeply financially intertwined with the platform's long-term survival.
Oh, because they need the system to survive long enough to pay out that 400%.
Precisely. They are financially incentivized to continually market, recruit, and defend the ecosystem to ensure their 4x cap is actually realized.
So what does this all mean? When you look at that massive disparity, right? The passive user hoping for their little 1% daily drip versus the captain orchestrating thousands of people for a 400% return, it radically clarifies the true nature of the Fortune Protocol G.
It really does.
The passive 1% daily reward is just the hook.
Yep.
It's the alluring headline designed to draw in the $25 and $50 participants.
The fuel.
Exactly. But the actual wealth generation engine, the mechanism that sustains the entire structure, is aggressive, multi-tiered network building.
And it is entirely by design. What we're looking at is a protocol that perfectly merges 2 distinct paradigms.
Okay.
It takes the decentralized, trustless, automated technology of modern blockchain, specifically, the efficiency of the Binance Smart Chain,
right,
and it weaponizes it using the deeply psychological, gamified structure of multi-level network marketing.
Weaponizes it. That's a great way to put it. It uses the flawless execution of code to automate a system of human recruitment.
Yep.
I mean, the smart contract never makes a math error. It never forgets to pay a commission to an explorer or a captain.
Nope.
And it ruthlessly enforces those self-deposit requirements to keep the liquidity flowing.
Which brings us back to the overarching narrative the creators established on page 1.
The FUD.
Yes. The Fortune Protocol G plan correctly identifies very real, very painful global financial anxieties.
Yeah, inflation is real.
The loss of purchasing power is real.
Absolutely.
People are actively looking for a lifeline. And the protocol offers a digital solution that removes the traditional gatekeepers. I mean, there are no banks deciding if you qualify.
Right.
No corporate boards making decisions behind closed doors. It relies entirely on cold, hard math to automate the flow of funds from an incredibly accessible entry point of just $25 up to a maximum of $1,000.
But the way it sustains that lifeline is what makes this such a vital case study.
Definitely.
I mean, whether you are a student of decentralized finance, looking at the mechanics of smart contracts, or just, someone interested in how modern digital economies are evolving under pressure, this document is a masterclass in behavioral engineering.
It really is.
It demonstrates exactly how DeFi tools can be leveraged to build entirely self-contained digital economies that rely completely on community momentum rather than like external market forces.
It perfectly captures a moment in modern financial history, I think. Yeah. The shift from trusting institutions with physical vaults and regulatory oversight to trusting open source code and the collective behavior of thousands of anonymous participants linked by a shared financial incentive.
And as we wrap up our analysis of this blueprint, that shift in trust is really the core of the matter, isn't it?
I think so.
We started by talking about FUD, the fear and doubt in traditional banking systems, and the Fortune Protocol presents itself as the antidote to that fear by offering a trustless system. You don't have to trust a banker, you just have to trust the smart contract to distribute the funds exactly as written.
But as we've seen from dissecting the mechanics, the smart contract is only distributing the funds that other humans are putting in.
Exactly.
The daily rewards and those massive bonuses for captains are explicitly generated through continuous ecosystem participation.
Which leaves us with a final provocative puzzle for you to mull over long after this deep dive ends.
Here we go.
If your chosen financial safety net is built entirely on the premise of an ever-expanding crowd of new participants walking up to the digital vending machine, does replacing your trust in a centralized bank with absolute trust in continuous, unbroken crowd participation actually eliminate your financial risk? Or does it simply change the shape of the risk you are taking?
That is the question.
Keep diving deep, and we'll catch you next time.